Greetings everyone, my name is Archie Paul Iberia. I am a second year AB Political Science student from the Western Institute of Technology. So today, I am going to discuss about the concept of policy. So first, what is public policy? A public policy is an attempt by the government to address a public issue by instituting laws, regulations, decisions, or actions pertinent to the problem at hand. So a public policy, in the other words, is the actions that is being made by the government to address a particular issue. So a public policy is what the government actually decides or chooses to do. It is the relationship of the government units to the specific field of political environment in a given administrative system. It can take a variety of forms like laws, ordinances, court decisions, executive orders, decisions, etc. etc. So, a law, ordinances or court decisions, and executive orders are the other forms of wherein a public policy is made into actions. We all know that the government is using its power or authority to make their political will into a reality. So these things such as law, the ordinances, the executive orders are one of the things that or one of the ways that the government made in order for their policy to be put into a reality. So next, it also implies a process of formulating and promulgating a program based on a set of principles. So this actually means that the policy that is being made by those who are the policy that is being made by those who are in the authority is based on what his or her principles are in running the government, especially in making the dreams or the will of the public into a reality. So next is the rule of action or manifesting, clarifying specific organization, goals, objectives, values or ideals, and often prescribing the obligatory or most desirable ways and means for their accomplishment. So of course, the public policy also pertains to the actions made by the government. Through public policy, we can see what achievements or what progress that is being made by the government in terms of the plan of action they had made so far. So next, it is also a system of courses of action, regulatory measures, laws, and funding priorities concerning a given topic promulgated by a governmental entity or its representatives commonly embodied in constitutions. Legislative acts and judicial decisions may also be created by an executive order, bureaucratic regulation, or provincial or city, municipal, or barangay ordinance. So through these actions, as what I have said, the regulations, bureaucratic regulation, or the provincial, city, municipal, and barangay ordinances, we can see what type of policy those who are in power wants to happen. For example, in the city or in the province, we can see or we can interpret what the politicians or those who are in power wants to achieve through a set of principles that they want to happen in our community. So next, of course, it is very important. A public policy is very important for a leader to be in power because those principles or those political will that he or she wants to achieve made the people to realize the characteristics or the type of person a politician is, and through his or her public policy the people would able to know what is his or her agenda when he or she becomes when he or she is in the authority. So it is very important that a public policy is made not just into words but into actions. So next, we will be able to know the elements of a policy. So it is a decisions or choices, specific actions that are taken to set goals, develop plans, and implement and evaluate programs. So of course, a public policy is to be able to make decisions, of course, in specific problems. For example, in our local community, the local government unit had to take a specific plan into a specific problem, wherein they would be able to solve that problem for the sake of our community and our people. So next, the effects that programs have on society, whether intended or unintended. Of course, with doing such public policy or doing such taking a plan of action, they would or we would be able to know the effects of the such program on our community. For example, on the projects of the LGUs of our national government, we would be able to know what are the effects, may it be a disadvantage or advantage, or it would may it be a unintended or intended. We would be able to know the effects of such policy. So of course, we tend to ask, what is the aim of a public policy? So first, it is to reconcile conflicting claims for scarce resources. Of course, through public policy, we would be able to distribute properly the resources that our country have. For example, in our national government, wherein through the bureaucracy, the resources or the funds of our government would be distributed properly through the local government units. Next is to encourage or foster cooperation that would probably not occur without government influence or encouragement. So this actually means that some of the actions that are being made in our society are made through the influence of the government. For example, just like the cleanup drive of the government, without the government, such project or such program would not be possible without the influence of the government. Next is to prohibit morally unacceptable behavior. Of course, it is also the aim of the public policy to make a standards that is based on the moral norms of goodness. Of course, the government had to make sure that our government is clean and can be trusted by the public. So next is to protect the rights of individuals. Of course, that is based on our constitution that state should promote or to protect the rights of every Filipino citizen. So that is also a priority or the aim of a public policy. Last is to provide direct benefits to citizens. Of course, it is also stated in the constitution that the government shall fulfill the desires of our people, of the people. So it is also clear that a public policy is meant for the people because the people elects the leaders. Therefore, the, the desires and the will of the people should be made. So here are the nature and scope of public policy. So first is the authoritative allocation of values for a society. So as what I have mentioned earlier, it is the role of the government to make sure that the resources or the funds of the country should be properly distributed, and that also that is also stated in the scope and the nature of the public policy, to prove for the authority to make sure that the values or norms is executed for the common good of our society. So next is the process of dealing who gets what, when, where, and how. Of course, it is also important that the state should recognize the needs of the people, but they should also take note that the priorities are the most what is commonly needed by the society is made first, are made into the topmost priority of the society is what we really need, and that would rely on the on how the government choose on whether to do or not to do on a specific problem. So last is to establish the boundaries of our freedom and color the contours of our interactions with other people in our political, social, and economic system. So of course, the public policy also enable us, the society, or enable us, the people, to interact with the politics or the social and economics growth or system of our country. So it is very important that we, the public, should be able to know what is the agenda of the government, enable for us to criticize or to made our opinions or our stand regarding the actions that is made by the government, because we, the people, had the power to choose what we want with our society, or what we desire for our country. So on the next slide, we would be able to know the different agencies or the different arms of the government that is responsible for the public policy in the Philippines. So there are several institutional built-in systems of policy making in the Philippines. Some of these are the following. So first is the NEDA, or the National Economic Development Authority for Socio-Economic Policies. I know that this past few months you have heard a lot about the NEDA, because this is one of the several institutions of the government that is responsible for the socio-economic policy of the government. And in the past few months, or in some recent news, the NEDA is a lot much more involved in the pandemic public policy making of the administration, wherein they project the economic loss of the Philippines. So next is the NSC, or the National Security Council, which is for security and defense. So the NSC is responsible for making sure that the country is capable of defending its territories, and of course in implementing security throughout the country. So the NSC, the last time I heard this is during the cabinet meeting, and the meeting of the former presidents at the Malacanang during the administration of President Duterte when they are going to tackle the country's agenda or the country's stand against China in the West Philippine Sea. So the NEC is much more involved recently in such issue in the West Philippine Sea. So next is the LEDAC, or the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or the General Legislative Agendas. So the LEDAC is composed of some members of the legislative and of course the executive, wherein they advise the president on with regards to the bills or the legislations in the House of Representatives or in the Congress. They would update or they would advise the president regarding the agenda or the plan of action that is being made by the legislative department. So of course it is very important that the president, which is the executive, and the legislative would combine forces in order for them to attain a common goal, or to make sure that some of the policies that they would agree upon on would be made possible through the legislations or through the laws that is being made by the legislative department. So next and last is the MMDA, or the Metro Manila Development Authority. So the purpose of the MMDA is through the it is a local level agencies for concerns affecting basic services. So of course MMDA is also very popular among us because we tend to heard about this agency in the news, because they are responsible for making sure that the basic services in the Metro Manila specifically is delivered properly. So the MMDA is responsible for the traffic in the EDSA or in the different major roads of the Metro Manila. So here are the here are the pictures and logos of the following agencies: the NEDA, the LEDAC, the NEC, and the MMDA. So these four institutions of the government are portrays a very important role in public policy making in the Philippines. So they are one of the examples on how the government made, or how the government executes their policy. So last is of course, we would be able to question what are the importance of public policy, why it is really necessary. First, generally, public policy plays a vital role in society as it helps to know the intentions of the government for a particular sector or department. So of course, with the criticisms of the opinions of the public, the government would be able to make a course or plan of action that would satisfy the people. So the public policy is very important because they portray the relationship between the government and the people. So next is through public policy, the public can measure the achievements made by the government. So as what I have said earlier, it is very important for us to interact with the social, political, and economic growth or systems of our country, because through public policy, we would be able to know what are the plan of action or the course of action that is being done or made by the government, or they have made the change, or they had made the lives of normal people comfortable. So through public policy, we would be able to know the changes that the government had made in our society. So next, it helps helps to respond to the needs of the society. So through public policy, the government will be able to know what are the needs and desires of our society, because that is their job as the representatives of the people. They should distribute or deliver well the power that is being entrusted by the people to them. So last is for scientific understanding of the cause and effect relationship. Also, a public policy would determine the cause and effect relationship, because through the interaction of the government and the people, we would be able to know scientifically, we would be able to understand and to know the process of how things work in the government and how things work in the bureaucracy, scientifically speaking or academically speaking. So a public policy is very important for us, not just for us to be able to know the needs of our society, but for us to execute well the moral norms of goodness and to make sure that the ethical standards in our society and the will and desires of the people is made into reality. That's all, and thank you for today.